Hey folks, it's Eric and Tal from Support Adventure. How's it going, Tal?
Good, how are you?
Good. Well, it's been quite the year. I mean, we last made this video about being a digital nomad in the coronavirus era when we were sitting in Thailand. Remember how it was to be stuck on that island?
It was paradise.
It wasn't so bad looking back, but that was back in March that we recorded that last video, I think, or April or something like that. And well, now we know a lot more about what's going to happen to our sort of type of people, digital nomads. And well, okay, so let's backtrack. Since Thailand, I felt the call to come back to Serbia, where I have my base set up essentially. And you basically stayed on the island in Thailand, and well, I mean, I also visited Belarus and Turkey since then, and I can say that it's really nice that I was able to visit Belarus and Turkey, but the other countries I could have visited, well, the pickings are fairly slim, let's say. So you went back to Canada, so I haven't been, apart from a one-day stopover in London, I haven't been in a Western quote-unquote country since then. So what was it like in Canada compared to Thailand?
Well, I came to Canada in August, right after they went into green zone, which means that everything was open. So I think I was very lucky to have a pretty normal experience in Canada, which I didn't expect. But while we were in Thailand, Canada was a very different story. Everything was closed. People were afraid to come out. You see a lot of masks on the streets, and cases went up and up and up, a lot of deaths as well. When I got there, people were starting to be more relaxed, starting to go out to the bars and the restaurants a little bit. Montreal felt very normal, to be honest. My friends were throwing house parties at that point. All the restaurants were full of people. You do see a lot more masks though, less than Thailand, but more than what I later found to be in Serbia.
Yeah, so now we're sitting in Serbia, and do you find that the attitude of people in Canada is different than in Serbia, basically?
Yeah, definitely. And as I left now, Canada has its second wave, even more cases than the first one. So right now, it's a very different story. The Ontario Premier is telling people to close their circles to just 3 people. So I was very lucky. I came right when it got good, and I left right before it went bad.
So yeah, I mean, I think that cities like Toronto, New York, London are seeing a huge exodus of people outside of those cities. So I mean, my basic impression is that the long-term prognosis for us digital nomads is looking good, that this lifestyle is more embraced now than ever, that companies have become a lot more open-minded for remote working models than they were previously, and that's all good news. But in terms of where you can go today, I mean, what's it going to look like over the next 6 months? Because okay, you see more and more countries are opening up by the day. For example, South Africa just opened. You need to have a PCR test, a coronavirus test, negative before you go to. You're seeing lots of that sort of stuff. So essentially, what it means for us digital nomads is, I think, as we touched on in the first video, more slow travel, right?
Yeah.
Like you're coming here to stay in Serbia for like at least a couple months, right? Yeah, just because you can, and just because it's a friendly place where things aren't too crazy, where it's still possible to have a normal life, and people aren't absolutely hysterical about this thing like there are in other places. And so yeah, slow travel. I mean, I'm in the position right now where I'm thinking of where I'm going to go for the winter. Middle of October or start of October as we record this video. Middle of October is starting next week, and well, I'm just going to go on a little road trip in Turkey for my holiday, and then I'm going to relocate to find somewhere to work. The pickings are quite slim at this point. I prefer Asia. I know, after how long did you stay in Asia?
11 months last year, way too long.
Yeah, you're all Asia'd out, but like I would like to get back there at some point over the winter. We'll see if it's possible. And like my overall impression is that the countries that do have the sort of courage to open up their borders again, despite the fact that it might bring a little bit of infection, like Turkey, like Serbia, and other countries like that, I mean, they're going to get the tourists. A lot of people, you said that you had an American friend who's just here because he can be here, and it's one of the few countries where you can go as an American right now, for example, and a lot of people are in the same situation with Turkey and countries like Albania and Belarus even, and so it's us digital nomads are essentially voting with our money. Like we're contributing. We're happy to go places and spend our money, and it feels really good to be able to do that still in this climate. And the countries that open up are the ones we're going to go to. As simple as that. The ones where we can actually be welcomed without going into quarantine. We're going to those countries, and so slow travel will mean that we'll stay longer and settle down a little more.
Yeah, and also for myself, I found my values changed in the last year. Now I value stability a lot more. I value to deepen my roots in a place and really get to know it better. And I think a part of that is because of the lack of opportunity to easily cross borders. And I don't have as much of a choice anxiety of having every single country open to me in the world, which is a privilege. When you take that privilege away, you really start to cherish other aspects of life. For example, geographic stability. So
Yeah.
maybe if other digital nomads feel similarly, it makes it easier. It makes the choice easier if there's only 4 countries you can go to and you're in one of them and you like it.
I recall seeing something like a study that people who have more choices in life are less happy. So, yeah, personally being stuck on that island in Thailand for 2.5 months, or almost 3 months, gave me a really good way of stabilizing myself. Because before that, I mean, in September I was in Colombia, then came back to Europe, and then I went in October to Thailand. Then in November I flew to California, and then back to Thailand, then back to Europe, then to Canada for Christmas, and then I came back to Serbia in Europe and took a road trip to Greece and came back to Belgrade. Then I went to South Africa, then I came back to Belgrade, and then I had 5 days here, and I'm like, should I go? This corona shit is getting real. And so I went, and I was stuck there for 2.5 months. And when I got back to Belgrade, 2.5 months here. And, I can say that my routines are a lot better now that I've been here. I mean, like, just setting up a routine and setting up some roots in a place, and knowing where you go, your favorite restaurants, your favorite people to hang out with, your favorite place to go for a bike ride or something like that. It's very important. And, when I was whizzing around the world, it's very good to know what's out there now and where I can go and the types of regions and how to get there and all that stuff. But I'm looking this winter to actually, as quickly as possible, replicate a lifestyle that I can, sort of have the routines and set down some roots like I have here. So, I mean, what are my options now? Mexico and Brazil. Both sound very interesting. I've only ever stopped in Mexico for 6 hours, and I've been to Brazil never before in my life. So it's all very intriguing and it's all very mysterious, but those countries are getting hit hard by the coronavirus. I'm not really that afraid of getting sick, but it does factor into the way that your experience as a digital nomad will be in those places. So you have to consider that. You have to consider the restrictions for entry and also the restrictions on daily life and how much worse it could get. So Brazil's pretty somehow attractive because I feel like how much worse could it get in that country and how much worse is it going to get? And it's summer there now and it's probably going to start getting better. So I'm considering going there. Apparently the bars are open. They're closed like some days a week on Monday and Tuesday because you only get coronavirus on Tuesday if you go out.
Yeah.
But they're open in the weekends, at the weekends. And basically, I mean, that sounds good. I want to... Yeah, there's also the feeling that you could... go in a country and not experience like the real vibe of a country because of this time.
Well, yeah, you bring a good point. I mean, the whole pandemic, we're globally experiencing it. We're all in this together. But the difference is that different cities have different experiences. For example, when I was in Bangkok, nearly everybody is wearing masks, even though everything was open.
Same in Istanbul.
Yeah. In Toronto, less people is wearing masks, but some things might be closed and people are much more cautious. In Belgrade, I feel like I'm in an alternate universe where there is no coronavirus and there's parties and
Really?
nightclubs and yeah, really.
Okay.
So I feel like different places have very different vibes and feelings. And as you travel, as you choose where you want to go, people might consider what it is now given the pandemic situation and given people's reactions to it and, laws.
Yeah, I feel like whatever this thing is, people in Serbia have lived through worse. As a nation, as a people in the 90s and all that stuff. And, it's always sort of, they're very skeptical about the sort of rulers and what they say. For example, they announced another lockdown, and within 2 hours of that, there were thousands of people outside of the parliament. Guess what? The government canceled the lockdown because they know that, well, it wasn't going to work out for them well if they did another lockdown. And I don't really see a difference. Having visited Belarus, I don't really see how they're much worse off having had no lockdown whatsoever than Serbia, who had, or, you know, the other countries where they had that sort of thing. So I still don't know what the thing is with coronavirus. Yeah, I mean, what the correlation is, whether the lockdowns work, whether the masks work, all that stuff, because the numbers here are pretty calm compared to the rest of Europe right now. So at the same, and it kind of just comes down to the fact that I don't want to get sick, and I'm probably not going to get sick, so I'll take all reasonable precautions. Like when I go in the store, if they have a sign, this is wear a mask, I do that. When I touch something, when I leave the store, I use hand sanitizer, and those are just my basic precautions. You know, and a little bit after I shake someone's hand sanitizer. Yeah, definitely. And I've always been like that. And the sort of pandemic has allowed me to, I was a closet sort of germaphobe, and now I'm able to sort of be out and flamboyant. Yeah, I just touched your hand, so nothing personal, buddy, but I'm going to sanitize. I have got a little pump in my backpack that has bottles of hand sanitizer. And
The year of the germaphobes.
the year of the germaphobes. And, you know, I get sick a lot less than other people. But there's also something to be said for going outside and not being afraid. Like, I'm not afraid. I just take the reasonable, because the worst thing is being afraid of things that you can't control. So take all reasonable precautions that you can to control it, but don't be afraid of the things you can't control, and don't sacrifice your lifestyle. And yeah, I mean, now if you can have a remote job, I mean, flights are more expensive, but accommodation can be cheaper in places.
Yeah.
So where you can go, you can find better deals. In the places that you find yourself in, you'll have more space for yourself. That may be a good or bad thing depending on what you're looking for, but definitely the future is looking bright for us digital nomads.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot more of us. I know a few friends that are now working remotely, and they've moved to other cities within their country. A few of them have gone abroad, not as many as I would have thought. But now that people are working from home and working remote, they're thinking, you know, what else is there out there? Especially people in hard-hit cities like New York and San Francisco and London, where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of pollution, they have to commute, and things...
And all the stuff that was good was like you go in an office, and then after you go to the, you know, nightlife in Manhattan or something like that, and all that stuff. The office is dead, the nightlife is dead. Why live in a shoebox in New York when you can actually live in a place that's more livable, has more breathing space, and is probably a lot cheaper? Even if you stay in the US, for example, probably a lot cheaper. But if you come to a country like Serbia, well, it's a third the cost probably. And so what are we, and more interesting and more exotic, and you can be somebody special there. You know, like if you're an American living in America, guess what? Most of the other people that are Americans, you're not gonna experience that much that's new or surprising to you, and you're not gonna be that special for the people that you meet. You're just gonna be another person in the rat race. You're just gonna be, if you stay in a city like that, in your home country. But if you get out there and become a digital nomad, I mean, well, guess what? There's a whole world out there. And unless you've been to all the countries already, you should entertain the possibility that there might be one out there that suits you or is more interesting or livable for you than the one you were born in. Does that make sense? Yeah, I mean, like, there's so much out there. There's so, like, whatever you want. Whatever you want. Like, if you want hot, cold, space, crowded, all that stuff. I mean, the crowded is out of style this year because of the whole thing, but you know, there's places that are going to bounce back, and there's, you know, like the way that the future's looking for people like us is very good indeed. And so if you ever wanted to try it, it's time to start, you know, sitting down and making a plan on what sort of lifestyle you want, doing the research, and then once it's possible to go somewhere, you go and do that. You go and you just pull the trigger and try it out. And if you try it out, you probably won't regret it ever, because you only regret the things that you didn't try in general. So, I mean, just get out there, folks. it's don't be afraid. I mean, this,
Don't let fear dictate your life.
yeah, so it's not that bad. To sum it up, I'm very hopeful about the future of being a digital nomad, and I'm very happy that I've had the opportunity to, be in 4 different countries during this whole thing, see how they're dealing with it, and 4 different countries where I felt, that my freedom wasn't infringed on too much, and that, that everyone was doing reasonable stuff to combat the pandemic while living their lives. And a lot of my friends in some places haven't been feeling that way, and the social pressure has been really bad. So I don't know, North American society, I decided in 2008 actually that I didn't want to live there anymore, that it was not a place for me. I didn't like the direction that it was going in terms of the cultural values and stuff like that, and I needed something more old world and more diverse in the way people live their lifestyle. So I found Serbia, and then later Thailand, and other countries like that are very good homes to be an expat in. And even in this time, I mean, Thailand's got its borders closed. I will be there when they open up again, but unfortunately it's not possible to go back there right now. I had a great time there, but the countries that will still open themselves to people with open arms are the ones to go to. Turkey, Brazil, Mexico. I mean, you just look on YouTube. You found this video, find some others about how it really is in these places now. And it's a lot better than places like New York City. And well, you've been let off the leash. You're a free range human being now.
Yeah.
And if you're working remotely, or you can find a job, through a company like ours where you can work remotely, then I mean, all power to you, and get out there. Thanks a lot, guys. So support adventure. If you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe to our channel, and more about travel, more about tech companies, more about lifestyle, and more about the future of living where you want and having a life that inspires you. Thanks a lot, guys.